So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live peoples and recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. And this arrived this morning in my post, which is unusual. Oh, 11 o'clock. Yeah, sorry, it was 11 o'clock this morning when it arrived. And I really wasn't expecting it yet. So at first I thought it was an April Fool's, but obviously not. So this is Mythomorphia, and I've been mispronouncing it for months. So apologies to Kerby Rosanes for mispronunciation, but we knew what we meant. We're waiting a long time for this. And it has the double flap protector or bookmark, however you want to show, which is a beautiful, beautiful dragon. So I have ideas about colouring and then I completely forget what I was going to do. So I'm going to do a flip of this book. So if you want a surprise, don't watch until you get yours. I want to write a few little scribbly post-it notes of ideas I originally have. So I've decided on this double page here, I'm going to colour it in with Inktense pencils. And the only way I can work now is to scribble a little bit of colour and then blend it with a damp brush. And that's going to allow me to get some really dark, vivid colours. So it's going to be very, very Inktense-y. I love this, but I don't think I must have done it quite as strong. And I won't be able to find it now, will I? No. I won't. I tend to work in different ways on different pages. But the pineapple one I really like doing. So this side was Inktense pencils and this side was Derwent watercolour pencils. And I love the fact that there wasn't much of a difference. You know, these are very, very vibrant and these are still quite bright. Whereas you can take these down to almost nothing. So you get some lovely watercolour effects. By scribbling a little bit of pencil. And I had to watch the video because I'd forgotten that I also used that particular way in this book. And I was really worried because I thought, because I can't watercolour anymore, I thought I couldn't finish these pages off. But this is actually Inktense pencils. And I scribbled a little bit of colour and then I've manipulated it with a damp brush. So I will be able to work this way, I think. So that's, when I say Inktense, this is how I'll be working. Scratching a little bit of colour and then manipulating it into watercolour and moving it about to make it a fast colour. And as soon as you touch a dull Derwent Inktense pencil, it brightens everything up. But these are now set, they won't move, whereas the Derwent watercolours, I mean, if you look at them, they're still just as bright. This is the Derwent watercolour pencil, where I didn't scratch a bit of colour, I used them a different way. I used them from my little book. And you can choose whether you want, sorry about the barking, a very vivid colour, and then you can manipulate the colour with a damp brush, or you can scratch the colour in, and if it's a bigger area, you can scratch the colour in and then use a damp brush. But the pages still remain flat. And do apologise, my daughter's gone out and left the dog. So I'd remembered how to do this. So I thought I was going to have another go. But the only problem with this is I am picking pencils up all the time. So I've got to be a little bit careful because after a couple of hours of doing that, it doesn't become fun anymore. This particular one here, I used my Dr. Martens Hydrus, I have series 1 and a couple of extra, so I think there's about 20, and I made these colours here. So I've made the greens, and I made the darker yellows. They're a bit dusty actually, but these colours here are what I use for here. They're again very, very vibrant, and you only want to drop. There's only a couple of drops of either one in here. They go a long, long way. There's there's 15 mil, half a US fluid ounce in here. These are gorgeous, professional, beautiful coloured watercolours, and of course you can mix them. You drop them into different colours. So if you dropped 1 drop of the Elysian Crimson into the Cobalt Violet, you'll get a different purple. If you did 2 drops of pink and 1 drop of purple, you've got another colour. So, you know, even though you've only got 20 bottles, there's thousands of colours that you can make up. So there's a lot of potential in that. And of course, these colours are absolutely amazing. So I want to make a few decisions about my Mythomorphia, so I don't forget ways of working, and I don't forget how different pages can look in the same book. Oopsie, apologies for the squeaky doors as well. So I'm going to use, in fact, I'll tell a fib, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the Derwent, and I've got 72 colours, so I'm not going to run out of colour. I'm going to use the Derwent watercolour pencils on this page. Excuse my scribble. And on the exact same page at the back, I'm going to use my Inktense pencils, and then that should give me a good practice for that. So where's my little piece of paper here? I'm just going to put, so I've remembered what I've actually got to work with here. So I like the idea on this page. Because of my arthritis, I can now only work really well. I've got Digi as well. I've got Digi. So again, that's good. With these pages being an A4 printer, you can only scan in. You lose a couple of inches. But you can still play. So I could play with oils onto here, and I love that. And I could do markers. I can do all sorts of airbrushing. I can use lots of digi ways to colour, which I love. And I can also colour, but traditional ways I'm a bit restricted, so I can only colour for a short time with my Inktense pencils, with my watercolour Derwent pencils, my pastel pencils, the Dr. Martens Hydrus pencils, the Winsor & Newton professional ones, and I've got my other ones here in the tube, which I've just made another palette for, and I've bobbed it somewhere. So I made this the other day, so this will be quite handy. I've got all the tubes. Well, I haven't got all the tubes. I've just got the 6 colours, but in here are a few more extra ones. So I've got my professional watercolours there, and I have my little, as I call it, a travel set. So I want to work from this, but it will be different from working from these. So there's a difference. Even though it's a watercolour, there's a different way of working. So I want to try both. And then I want to work from my little book of colours, where I mix everything together. I mix my Peerless with my Caran d'Ache, my Derwent watercolours, but I have a lot of control when I use this little book. I can get the palest colour or the strongest colour. So every colour I use, I've got 10 shades at least. So there's a lot of control with a damp brush and these little squares of paper palettes. And it doesn't matter if it's got Caran d'Ache on it, or if it's got Neocolor 2s, if it's got a little bit of pastel work, Gansai Tambi watercolours. The Peerless are already in here. They're very sticky, but there's tons of colour in here. So I only have to touch a little bit. So I will be working from this little book as well, because I'd forgotten all about my little book. And because I stopped working in it, that's why I've forgotten all about sending the giveaways away. So apologies for that 100,000 times. I cannot believe that, but unfortunately, if things are out of sight, they are definitely out of mind. Or I'm out of my mind. I haven't quite decided which. So I have to say, I'm so sorry about my giveaway, but it's written all over, and hubby's in charge of that. So I'm just waiting for confirmation of my of the addresses so that I can send off the ladies that won the giveaway in January. And apologies. And I know why I did it. I did it because I wanted to put some colours in for everybody. But my hands were so bad, it got put on the back burner, and then the hands have got so bad, it's a lot to concentrate on actually colouring. So again, I am so sorry, and I was thinking about doing another giveaway, but I daren't because I'm just so bad with my memory. I am so bad. Unless I make my daughter in charge, maybe she'd take over for that. So I'm going through this little book, deciding what I want to do, but I thought because this has got kind of birds on it and it's got fish, trees, I would think maybe it would be quite fun, and I've never done it before, is to use all these kind of colours. So I can mix ink tens with hydrus and then have a pale pastel colour with my Derwent pastel somewhere else. So that might actually be quite fun. I've never done it before, but that's going to be a mixed watercolour media page. So obviously the fishes, if I do that with the hydrus, that's going to really stand out, whereas some other little creatures might not do, or the background do it in pastels. Has anybody got any questions? So here I've put, because this is quite fun, and again it's a practice, what I would call a practice page. If I made a mess of this page, it doesn't really matter because it's kind of a practice, as is this one. I've put Winsor Newton in the travel set because I want to try and get some natural highlights, and I want to try and have a lot of control over these colours without using the palette. So you can just dip in and go. And I think if I sprayed it with a very fine spray mist of water and I use a rigger, I think I can just about get a really nice effect. So that's going to be used. Oh, sorry, I can't pick anything up today. That's going to be used for this page. If I'm not sure what I'm going to do, I'll leave it. But if something jumps out of me, then I thought. And of course, this is a 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, it's not. There's more. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-headed dragon. So it's an octadrag. It's an 8-headed dragon. So that's going to be quite fun to do. And again, you can do them in soft colours. Pastel might be good for that because I'm going to do really vivid, bright dragons. But I thought some softer colours are quite nice for dragons. So I might just put a note, pastels. So we want Derwent, pastel, pencils. And again, that means that I can scratch a little bit of colour and then I can manipulate it with a damp brush. So that's easy on the hands, is that one. Not quite sure what I'd do with this one. Yeah, so Button says that's how she does it. Yeah, it's good to have a practice with the actual page, but of course you're just using your introductions. Yes, I kind of like to do that as well. Or pick the least, sometimes I don't have that, so I pick the least prettiest page, a page that I might not want to colour. And then if I make a boo-boo, it's not going to upset me so much. Yes, button says it allows you to mess up. Yes, it does. And yet you still haven't damaged the book. So we've got the lion at one side, and I do think this is connected, this particular one. So we've got the seahorse, literally a fish turned into a horse, and a fish turned into a lion, all underwater. Oh, I think that would be nice in the hydrus. So I imagine these colours. I've actually forgotten how I did it, but it's just hope I remember. Where's the little book gone? The very thing is, I have to watch my videos again to remember what I did. That is so sad, especially when you don't like watching yourself. So I've got a vision of these awesome bright colours as the lions and the dragons. Of course, you've got the reds and the oranges. They'd be fab. And maybe do a teal fish. So I have that vision for that page. So we've got Dr. Martin's hydrus, and they're professional watercolours. I'll just put vivid, oops, if I can spell, vivid colours. So that's sorted those two pages out. I think this wants to be as this page here. No, not that one. You see, I use this as a practice. This is the first time I use my watercolours, my Winsor & Newton, and so these were my practice pages. I love these colours, and again, I think these aren't the professional watercolours. These are the tubes of the Cotman watercolours. I've got a little one somewhere if I can find it. So this is the Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolour cadmium yellow hue, and when they're on offer at 99p, I think I had more than no, I didn't have more than 3 because you can't see a vivid colour, so maybe I used that palette as well. I can't remember. But this was not professional watercolour, but again, I love these colours. They're kind of soft. Whereas the brighter ones here, but there's different ways of working with different things. The bunny rabbit page is the first one I did with professional watercolours, and I think they may be just that little bit too bright for that page. I suppose I could turn them down. So I think if you look at that one and then this one, there is a subtle difference in colours, but not much. So again, I think I like professional watercolours for that one. I was writing in a pencil, wasn't I? So I think we'll use watercolours. Again, I love this page. So have we got any questions? Oh, bye, Dazzle Desire. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks, guys, for popping in. Hope everybody's well. Hope everybody's well in YouTube land as well. And thanks for watching. If you like the videos, if you like and subscribe, that would be wonderful. And then I know that I'm on the right track of what people like to see and what they don't like to see. I like this page. I think that could be quite fun. I think it could be almost Disney kind of flat colours. So you could possibly use gouache watercolour. I think I've got some gouache. I think did I give them to my daughter? Can't remember. Because gouache is very flat, so you get the kind of Disney effect in using gouache. Very graphic. I do like that, but I just can't think. I think probably watercolour would be better. Or maybe pastels. I think I might use pastels on that one, because I think soft colours would be nice. So I think I'm going to use my Derwent pastel pencils on there. Love these colours, these shapes. Love these greens. So I think that has to be watercolour as well. Really like. Oh no, I may actually do this one. Pastels, pastel pencils, because I know I have some gorgeous greens in that that set of pastels. They are. But Nadik says, yeah, they are. Aren't they gorgeous? Everyone's got its own character. Yeah, that should be fun with the red toadstools. Although I don't know if they're going to be all red. I might change them because they look red with the wet death cap. Is it the death cap one? But I think I have a lovely book of toadstools somewhere. And again, I like using references to bring out the proper colours of toadstools. Because I know they kind of grow together in clumps, so the red ones would all be together. But I think some of these should be other colours as well. We'll have to think. But I did like the bunny one. And that red is the original red. And I made it with exactly 50-50 alizarin crimson and cadmium red, because the cadmium red was too cold and the alizarin crimson was too pink. Just to say, Samantha, darling, could you shut my door, please? Thank you, darling. But a 50-50 of each gave this lovely rich red colour. So that was the original colour, and this is the same colour, just watered down. Exactly the same colour, but watered down, and I think that's the palest. So you can get lots and lots of colours and shades from one colour. And I can imagine that these would look quite nice as well, even though they're all the same colours. I actually quite like those. I think that would look quite good. And that was done in professional watercolours. And I've put pastel there, haven't I? No, I won't watercolour on that one. No, I might change my mind, actually. I think I might change my mind and do Winsor Newton. I do have some nice reds though. Winsor & Newton watercolour. And I like the idea of working in different ways. And some are easier on my hands than others. So if I'm doing watercolour, I'm going to have a tiny paintbrush in my hand all the time. Whereas if I'm doing pastel work, I find that's the easiest. So on a bad day, I could do pastels, and on a good day, I can work in watercolours. If I'm at a model show, I can work out of my little book, and if I'm at home, I can work out of my Hydrus if I want to mix lots and lots of different colours and not be restricted. So there's different ways of working depending on what mood you're in and where you are. Yes, it is. I think there is a video. I think there's 3 videos for this, I think. It's the first time I used professional watercolours, and that's what made me. I loved this horse that was from 3 tubes of these, and again, wonderful to work with. I think I got 3 pages and it looks a bit messy, but there's still some gorgeous colours in there. I ended up all around the edges mixing colours to get different shades. But there's only 3 colours there. There's alizarin crimson, lemon yellow, and there is a video for that, but I don't think it's very good. It's edited, but I don't think it's very good. But I was on the sofa, I was ill. But it shows you how I actually did the colours. And of course, you get the most wonderful watercolour effects. by putting a tiny bit on the bottom and manipulating them with a damp brush. So you get some really nice effects. It's not always dead flat colour. Really loved working like that. I hope that shows up. Absolutely loved this page. And because I was at the hospital as well, I spent the whole day working in it, in my wheelchair. I was actually on a Zimmer frame then, a wheelable Zimmer frame. So I sat there and I worked from this little palette. But I love those colours, and they are completely different to the bunny page. Oh, no, my hands are bad today. But it managed to get some quite vibrant colours and then some really, really soft, pale colours. And they are really, really pale, almost like dirty water pink. And the bunnies as well. Give a bit of shadow and shade to those. So I can imagine that's going to be, I think that might have to be watercolour. So I thought I'd just go through and make a few notes. And I don't have to, I might open it up and think of something completely different. This would be watercolour. I don't think that Derwent watercolour pencils might be nice. I worked a lot in this one. Now, this particular one is quite bright. And this is all worked in Derwent watercolour pencil. But they're all worked from this palette here, these palettes. So I'd flick and find a colour, use a damp rigger, and then manipulate the colour in. Now I only did just use the Derwent watercolours in this, but I think sometimes it's nice to use lots of different ones. The doors are going to be all pastel, I think. I've made a few notes on this one. And yet, that's a different way of working. Here's another one. My thumbs are really bad today. This, again, is another way of working. That was working from my little book of watercolours. This was working... oh, I think that might have been the same. Although I may have scratched a bit of colour, I can't remember. If I have a big surface, this was definitely worked differently. This one, I scratched the colour in the space and then I activated it with a damp brush. And I got some quite nice effects. There's no pencil lines, even though that's a big space. So this is the Derwent watercolour pencils, but I'm not using them out of here. I've scribbled them down as a solid colour and then manipulated it with a brush. And I was panicking about using that in big spaces, but actually if you do scratch the pencil in first and then manipulate it, you don't get any pencil lines, but you can fill a big space. Whereas this way, you couldn't fill a big space because you'd use it all up. And your brush would be too damp. So there's different ways of working with the Derwent watercolour pencils. Oh, Claudia, hi, welcome to Bunny's Designs. I've actually got several videos out of how to make this. There's quite a lot, because I made it about 2 years ago, so there's quite a lot of videos out there. If you just look up my little travel book of watercolors, and there's one called 600 colors or 6,000 shades, because if you take, I mean, that one is any color on the planet, but without that, each one's got 10 shades, and there's 600. So by the time you get to it, so that's what I was saying, Derwent could bring this out with art bars, 100 art bars, 72 Derwent pencils, 72 ink pencils, the Graphie tint, and they could bring out the pastels as well, because they obviously could have a way of putting the pastel colours, all these beautiful, beautiful muted shades that you could never get on a palette to stick. I mean, I've just done it with a wet, it's on there, but it's not perfect, but I'm sure there is a way of doing it. So they've got the hundreds of colours in pastels as well. So they could get 1,000 colours in a book, 1,000 palettes, and each palette has 10 shades. So Derwent could bring out a 21st century travel watercolour sketchbook with 10,000 colours in it. And you could buy the little strips, because the postage would be good. So you could get, I've got ink tens, a couple of millimetres there. So and of course theirs are more professional than mine. Mine are just stuck in with a little tiny bit of double-sided tape, because I didn't think this would work. And rather than destroy them, I thought if I had one that was gone to mush, I could take that out and replace it. Because obviously you use different colours more than you use others. So that's why mine's all kind of a bit rough. This is almost, that was the prototype, was this one. But they could actually bring out them with printed names, with a little Derwent book to fill out. So you buy the pencils and you could try them, and if you like them, then you buy the set. Or you could just keep buying the sets of all the different colours to build up a travel set. But as I say, children, toddlers, give them this with a tablespoon of water or a water brush, and there's no mess. Old people could use them, disabled people can use them, children, students, school children, they could all have all these colours with them all the time. So I hope Derwent will, I want to give them this, but they don't particularly want it, but I think it will put them back on the map. But the Derwent watercolour pencils are so underrated. They can use them as a pencil, and you can use them as a watercolour, and they are so amazing. So when my hands are a little bit better, I'm going to go through that. Oh, hi Dee Dee, welcome back. Dazzle Desire, welcome back. So there's a lot of books, flip throughs of my little book of watercolours. But it does belong to Derwent, because Derwent, that's why I got the idea. A gentleman called David Cook, and I've remembered his name, brought out a video about using the Derwent pastels, the Derwent watercolour pencils for his wildlife. And it's a video, and instead of taking the pencils out with him, at the back of his sketchbook, he scratched, at the back of the sketchbook, he scratched squares of colour so that he could take his sketchbook and make some watercolour sketches and take the sketchbook out and leave the pencils at home. So it's Derwent's idea anyway. So I just want to remind them of it. This way, I think I've worked, I did this the other day and I can't remember what I did. I think I worked from my little book of colours. So again, these are lovely and soft. Although they are exactly the same as this, they are completely different in colour. These are soft, muted colours. These are a little bit stronger. And that's what I was saying about this little book. These Derwent pastels in paper palettes, and you don't have to make this, just scratch them on a bit of paper. You have so much control. You can have a deep colour or you can have a pale colour from one pencil. And you can scribble two colours together and mix them. There's hundreds of things you can do with the Derwent watercolour pencils. So you can mix the two colours together and get a purpley blue rather than a blue or a purple. So there's hundreds of ways you can use these very versatile pencils. And this video by David Cook in the 80s actually showed you that. But I love them, and you can use them as a pencil as well. So you can just colour in as a pencil. So they're tucked away in my little box at the moment. So have we got any more questions? So that's another way of working, exactly the same, but the outcome is different. I'm using a lot stronger colour here than I am here, but it's exactly the same technique. And I think that's all I've done in here, but I actually quite like that, so I've just realised they would be quite nice. And then this is the pastels. So these are these beautiful Derwent watercolour Derwent pastels. That this is not set. Oh, they should be. I don't think I've set it. But because you're grinding it down, and again, unfortunately, at the moment, I can't do that. I can't play with my gorgeous pastels with a blender to get these little subtle colours. I can use them as a watercolour. I can put scratch colour in and use a rigger like I do all the others. So actually that might be better to do that. That might be better to do that. And these are pastels as well. But again, I've used them in a different way. So you can get bright colours, you can get muted colours. There's lots of different things. But I can imagine that these colours are going to look really nice. Those pastels on there. I think I want to use watercolours on there. Have you got any questions? Just trying to think what else I've done with this now, because I can't remember. So you'll have to bear with me. Let me just have a quick look. Because unfortunately, oh, that's it. Now I actually quite like these colours. These are pastels, exactly the same, but I blended them in, and then I used. Actually, I didn't blend them in. That's why they're vibrant. You scratch a bit of colour, and again, this is under Derwent pastel pencils in Kerby Rosanes video. I think there's 3 videos here. Here I did blend it in because I wanted that subtle, proper parrot looking thing. Here I wasn't bothered. I wanted vibrant colours, so I scratched a little bit of colour and then manipulated it with a damp brush, so you do get some very bright pastel colours. So I think on this page I'm going to use the pastels, but if I'm going to use a blender on that one, I'm going to use a wet brush. So I've got pastel pencils with a damp brush, no blender. So that's going to be muted, soft pastel colours. This is going to be bright, vivid pastel colours. And that will be not set as a watercolour. This will be. That made any sense? Yes, it's 72. And they're numbered 1 to 72. Where's my little book? The Derwent pastel pencils are awesome. These are the Derwent watercolour pencils. Now mine are blue because they're old. If my husband comes in and asks him to open the box, it's next to me, but I just can't lift it. So we've got a zinc yellow, a lemon yellow, a gold, a primrose yellow, straw yellow, deep cadmium, Naples yellow, middle chrome, then you get to the oranges. So you've got 6 or 7 yellows, then we've got some oranges, then we've got Scarlet Lake, pale vermilion, deep vermilion, and flesh pink. So they're kind of reds. And then we've got, there's a flesh coloured one, Madder Pink, Madder Rose. Then we've got some Madam Carmine, Crimson Lake, Rose Madder, Rose Magenta. So we've got really deep, richy reds, pinky reds to purples. Then we've got some mauves and some purpley blues. Then we've got some cold blues and some sky blues, indigo. Then we've got really nice tealy blues, greens. Then we've got some gorgeous rich greens. Then we've got some bright greens and olive greens. And then we've got sepia browns, straw colours, soft warm browns, some reddy browns. And then we've got some cold greys. So as a set at actual watercolours, it's darn good. And then you can mix two together. So in between each one, you can mix two pencils together. But I'll show you how to do that when I do the colours here. I'm hoping to get a couple of injections. Well, I'm not hoping. I don't want, but I'm having injections into the joint. If you say it quickly, it's not frightening. I've had a couple before. They're very unpleasant but necessary. So they're hoping to get my hands working a bit better. Again, the Neocolor 2s, using them on a paper palette, you have a lot more control. And I really wanted to make this into all the reds and yellows and make it into like a colour section. But I can't scribble any colours on anything, so I'm going to have to kind of wait for my daughter to do that. But they've all got important end of year exams at the moment, so everybody's really busy. The Graphitints are in here as well, but I was very surprised to make my own Graphitints the other day, working in greys. So I'd made these colours here with this professional watercolour set. I'd used the greens and the purples, and I wanted to try and get a smoky coloured grey. And then I decided that I didn't like this particular page, but I wanted to play in it, and I bet I can't find it now. And sometimes you look at a page and think, I don't really think I want to colour this. But I was having a nosy about what I can do to make these work for me. So it's obviously in this one here. Again, that was professional watercolours, completely different colours. That's what worried me. I started this and I couldn't finish it because it's in watercolours, but I can have it. This is pastel, scratched a little bit of colour and then manipulated and diluted into a shadow, and then of course it's set because it's manipulated with a damp brush. I obviously haven't put a sticker on it, so that's my fault. That was with the I've given them to my daughter, so I can't use them anymore. Well, I can use them in my book. I've got them in my Derwent watercolour book. Sorry, my little travel book here. There's Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s. Oh, sorry, there isn't Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s. I do apologise. The mouth's working before the brain's in gear. I have Derwent. I don't know where they've gone now. Metallics, and I also had a set of and I took this out so I couldn't get it back in. This is how the book is. It's a photo album, and you slide that in there, but there is a couple of videos of how to do it. I couldn't do that yesterday. Just a second, get that back in. And I left a gap at the end to highlight them, and then you flick the pages. So I've got metallic, it's shiny, a bit shiny. They're metallic Caran d'Ache watercolour pencils and Derwent metallics as well. And the reason I put both in because all the colours were slightly different apart from the silver. So I had 23 colours. So I was quite impressed with that, but I've actually popped the other one probably somewhere else. So they were Derwent metallics, and I really like that, and they are manipulated with water, they're not just scratched down. find what I was waffling about now. Oh, so that was Graphitint. And apologies, I cannot find the two robots because I probably didn't put a thing on them. Ah, there we are. So what I decided to do was, because I'd got a green and a purple, I decided to make some greys. 50 Shades of Grey. Oh, that's a difficult one, Karen. Carol. Carol says, what do you prefer, Derwent Intense or Derwent watercolor pencils? I would think, until I'd done this one with the because the Derwent pencils are almost as vibrant. I have to say the Derwent pencils, because you can work them as a watercolor, whereas once the Inktense is set, they're set. But of course they're very vibrant, so it depends what mood I'm in. I do love the Derwent watercolor pencils. They are so overlooked, it's unbelievable. They are fantastic. I do mean to get them out. They are. I'm looking at my little fancy box. They are just amazing. There is a video of how I did these two. I got 6. I chose the colours. I googled a pineapple and I chose 6 colours. I think it was either 6 or 12 colours, and I scratched a little bit of each one, and then I blended it with a brush together straight away rather than blending the colour separately. And that's how I work with the pastels, and I hadn't realised that's what you can do. You put the pastels, you put all the pencil colour on and then you mix it with a brush, and that makes it easier. Did that make sense? So this is my professional watercolours that I mixed from that paper palette at the beginning of the week. And the first page was here. So I'd made this smoke blue colour, this really nice, like an indigo, smoky blue, Payne's grey. And I'd made dull greens for the forest. And I just took it a step further and then mixed the two together. So I mixed 2 secondary colours to make tertiary greys. And what did I say about making your own lovely greys? So I have got a blue grey in there. I've got a blue grey, a green grey, a purple grey, an orangey browny grey, a brown grey, so, and a pinky grey. So I love this, and I really didn't want to colour these 2 pages because mechanical things are not my style, but I really loved working in that. So I think I did a couple of videos on this, and it's fairly quick. It's fairly quick. The colour's already here, and if I wanted a little bit greyer, purple grey, I'd put green in it, and then I ended up here putting a little spot of orange into the grey to kind of warming it up a bit, and then I put a bit of French ultramarine to make it back into a blue grey again. So I had hundreds of greys, so, but I thought that really made that page, whereas I couldn't have done that in those bright flowery reds and oranges and greens. So I was quite impressed with that. And then when you look at the colours, you realise it's almost a Graphitint, because that's the Derwent Graphitints. So the Derwent Graphitint watercolours are blooming gorgeous. The only problem I've got with them is there isn't a lot of reds, and it's only a set of 24. Now, if Derwent came out with a set of 72 Graphitints, oh, they'd be amazing. And they could do that and then they could put them in little squares. So these are the Graphitints, and there's not many reds and there's not many yellows. We've got some greens, we've got some gorgeous blues, And we've got some fantastic greys and brown greys, but we don't have any yellow greys or red greys. And I know red greys are not that easy to get to, but I managed a couple of orange ones. And the yellow ones, I don't think I've got a yellow grey, but you know, that's almost a yellow grey here. So they're really nice, and they're not very expensive. It's a set of 24. They're obviously going to be stronger. These colours are stronger than mine. Oopsie. Oops, lost it now. So again, watercolours, you get the mushroom bunny page, then you get the muted other page. I'm just scratching colour on there. I don't know where that's come from. Oh, that's not very nice. Maybe white. I'm not sure where I've got all that orange from. Over there. So just make sure that I don't get that on my new book. Yeah, it's professional watercolour. I've got orange kicking about somewhere, so I'm going to have to do a background on there. But again, you know, this is what professional watercolour you can do with the tissue. So really enjoying playing in all the different colours and all the different books. Just make sure I haven't got anything on my hands. Anybody else got any questions? Oh, sorry about having to refresh and things. I hope, am I still presumably going? Not probably sure. Oh, a mouth of coffee. So can't think of what colours to do these yet. Something will pop into my head, no doubt. Again, this is I've got the muted colours here in Inktense and watercolour. So here I think maybe Hydrus would bring out these gorgeous colours. And he is actually in the sea, I think, because we've got fishes. I think so, maybe waves. So it, again, possibly Hydrus watercolours. Quite like these as well, but I think these would be pastel colours. I think pastel would be nice. So thanks for stopping by, guys. I was just so excited to open this fabulous book. Again, I think this could be Hydrus, but I might do muted Hydrus. I haven't used them as a pale watercolour, so I might try to do that. Again, I love this. I think these could be watercolours. So if I'm away, I probably will, when I go to Ireland, I might take this book with my watercolours. So we want the pan set though. From Derwent. And I say at the moment, Cassart have it for £52 with 24 professional watercolours in little pans. Mr. Fox. I think if I found out that, I love this book. Love this book. I think if I found out about these bright Hydrus, I think I might try to do the reds. I haven't played with the reds. I've got Brilliant Cad. There's an Elysian Crimson. There's a magenta, a Chronacanin magenta. And I thought I had another red. And I dropped this one and spilt half of it, but there's tons left. Oh, there's another red. Deep red rose. So if I could make lots and lots of deep reds, not particularly pinky reds, but by adding other colours, by adding a lot of gamboge and yellow light Hansa and yellow ochre, I can dull down all these colours to make lots of really nice reds and orangey reds. So that might be on the cards, because again, I can just about get those tops off. But I would probably use them out of here. So I have some nice orangey reds here, I think. I think that could be quite good. I'll have a think about that one. No, I think I'm going to do that pastel. I think I'm going to do that pastel, because pastels work well in a big area for blending. Anybody else got any questions? Thanks for stopping by. This is a live stream with live peoples, and I'm flicking through the new Kerby Rosanes Mythomorphia. Again, I think actually I might do those greys. If I put Graffy Tint colours in watercolours, that should look quite good. I have to think about a background for this one. I think what I'm going to start to do is, like I did with the Joanna Basford's Christmas, if there's any gaps that I didn't really want to have as many gaps, rather than do a background, I think I might kind of take something and copy it and trace it and put it in the background. So like some of these leaves are quite nice to overhang. You know, I could overhang those, something like that. I'm not one for colouring backgrounds, I have to say. Although this one might be an exception because it's above C and below C. Again, the hydras kind of jump out at me. But I think the big spaces is going to be dry pencil. I have to have a think about that. Maybe Inktense for that one. I think this underwater scene is going to be hydras as well, because there's quite a lot of fish and coral, and I think those gorgeous bright colours lend themselves to coral. And I haven't really mixed these colours together, so there's no blending here of colours, it's just pure colour, apart from the green and the blue, the phthalo green and the phthalo blue. I kind of dip the paintbrush into the phthalo green and at the same time the phthalo blue to give me that wonderful contrast from one to the other. That's showing better greens, that. So again, I can see this being so vivid and bright, and her tail being these gorgeous teals and blues. So I might actually put hydras down there as well. Here we have a wolf with some bats, and there's some big spaces, so I think again that's going to be pastel. Because if you've got a small brush and you don't want a very wet brush, it's going to be difficult getting this big space. And I do have that gorgeous indigo dark, smoky dark colour for the bats rather than black. I think this would be good in Derwent pastel pencil, Derwent pencil, Derwent watercolour. Oh, we've got some fine dragons. I think they're going to be Inktense. What I was going to do with this is a comparison. So I'll do Inktense on one and Derwent watercolour on the other. Very similar to what I did. Derwent watercolour pencil and Derwent, sorry about my scruffy writing, Derwent Inktense. And again, a lot of sandy colours. So I think pastels might be good on there. And this looks quite interesting. I think that's like a griffin. Is it a griffin? I think, is it a griffin, a winged clawed lion griffin? This is quite nice, but again, I want to put something in the sky there. And he's kind of interesting, but very dark around and him highlight. Maybe like the Rembrandt. I put Rembrandt lighting. And what he did is where he had a very bright highlight, he put a very dark shadow, so it made the highlight look brighter and the shadow look darker. And it's iniscura or something, but the other word for it is Rembrandt lighting, but I can't remember that. So if I just put light, dark, and I think I might do, I don't know, I don't actually know what I'm going to use in that, but I quite fancy the idea that he's kind of lit like Rembrandt lighting. This is a gorgeous phoenix type of bird, and again the flames, they remind me of flames rather than, so that might be quite good in ink tones maybe. The snake lady, again, is it Medusa? I can't remember what we call her. If anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. See, there's so many colours in the pastels though, you don't have to be dull. Again, that looks quite nice. Just, I imagine all sorts of bright colours and dull colours on that one. I think he has to be kind of like graphy tint colours. He's obviously going to be all white. He's got to be a white, unless they make him a brown. Just off-white colours. And then we have another kind of snake dragon. That reminds me of the basilisk. I think a basilisk is a real word actually, so that could be quite interesting. Again, I think she should be the very, very bright colours. I'm not sure about the spider. I'm not sure about the spider. If you could have a black background, that would look quite good. I don't normally do black backgrounds, but so pastels may be better for that. Oh, that looks like Alfie. And sure, that looks like Alfie. Sure, that looks just like Alfie. So if you're watching to Ustream, YouTube, thank you for watching. This is a live stream recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. So I am chatting away to myself and also reading chat as well, if it's in caps. So people are asking me questions. Again, the Chinese dragon, again, I think he should be quite vivid, the golds. Oh, I hadn't thought about the Gansai Tambi watercolours. They might be quite good in there. Because I know they have a proper gold. That's what I was thinking. They do have a gold shiny colour. So I might put Gansai Tambi watercolours in there. I could actually maybe work from the pans. Again, those greys kind of keep cropping up, those muted greys that I quite like, especially with all these swords and daggers and things. Again, I think that could be quite nice. But in the Derwent set, there are some absolute. This is the 90 set, but obviously I've got half of 3/4 of this set. So again, we've got some lovely muted colours here, but we've also got some greens and greys, some really nice muted greens and greys. So I think they might be quite nice in pastel, I think. But then on this side I have the new Derwent pastels. These are the bright colours, the 72 Derwent pencil pastels, and I've mixed them in with the odd set that I had of the original vintage ones. So we've got, and I've put them in colour order, so we've got some really nice pale soft colours here. So I don't actually, sorry about the crinkle, I don't actually know how many colours I've got in this particular set. But I've actually, it took me quite a long time. I tried to get them into colour order, so they're all linked by colour. So if I touched a pencil and went one way, I'd go darker, or one way, I'd go lighter. So again, the greys are quite nice in there. And then all the fawns, all the warm browns are here. And all the pale, insipid, shadowy colours. And then all the yellows. I mean, there's a lot of yellows on here. Try not to touch the bottom of the page. From very pale to rich yellows to very pale creams. And then on the other side, we've got all the oranges and the orangey browns. And then last but not least, we've got the pale flesh colours to the pinks and the purples and the reds and purples. Okay, then. Well, you'll have to. Can't you take him upstairs, please? Right, Alfie, come under here, please. Pop him under there. Yeah, okay then. Come on, under here. Good boy. Da, 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 da. I know you want to be with her, but you'll be with me. Come on. Come on, darling. Under here. It's a good boy. Come on. What's this? That's your onesie. Come on. Good boy. Tuck up. There's a good boy. Sorry about that. This is when my daughter's tummy won't settle. That's the famous Alf, who's still with us. Right. So, colour-wise, I think I'm going to put muted greys down. I think, like, if I cut graphy tint greys, but I think I might use pastels for this one because there's so many beautiful colours in that, and the pastels are a little bit easy for me to use. So I have to think about that, unfortunately. Again, I think that's a watercolour with all the lovely browns and the toadstools. So pretty sure that's a watercolour, but from the pans, I think, if I can get them to manipulate. So in part 2, when I've done this, I'm going to have a play with the first couple of pages with all the different techniques, and then I can decide what I like best. Again, I think bright, vivid colours for this. Again, it's got to be those. I found my pencil now. I didn't put that on there. I think these have got to be the hydras. I can imagine all these gorgeous, bright, vivid teals for under the sea, and the bright oranges and reds for the flames, and from oranges, from flesh coloured to browns to reds to bright flaming oranges and yellows. I think that would look quite good. And I think the hydras might do well with that. I've never done it before, but we'll have a play. So we want reds and yellows, and we want blues, greens, and then we have the horse. I think we're going to have to do that in watercolours. I haven't done a mixture yet, have I? Again, I can imagine those vivid grey waves. Sorry, not vivid grey waves. The teals and the blues, but yet the red and the yellow of the dragon. So that would be very dramatic, that, in Hydrus. If anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. Goblins. Are they goblins? I may have got... Oh, sorry, are they goblins? Where do we have the... Oh, there they are. Oh, I call them gnomes, didn't I? Know the goblins, aren't they? Yes. The gnomes have got the round fat faces then. Thank you for that, Hazel Desire. So, yeah, really feel these really, really rough seas, and then maybe leave the white froth completely white, and then have a red and green dragon. That should look quite interesting. I think these has got to be muted greys. Now I wonder how to make greys from the Hydrus. That could be interesting. Again, I think he's going to be kind of muted greys as well, but I might try Hydrus, and that's watercolour Winsor & Newton. I might try to see if we can get some nice colours. Not sure what to do with that. Probably pastel. Have to have a think about that one. Probably pastel to get the rocks, I think, and the fur. Oopsie, sorry. You have to push that back so that he doesn't open the door.
Yeah. You want another coffee?
No, thank you. I've got a cold one there. Thanks anyway.
What do you need?
I don't know. I'm just going to finish off.
Okay.
Thanks. So we've got what have we got here? Again, it's an underwater, so the oh, I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to do a Derwent watercolour pencil, and I'm going to do an Inktense. So we want a Derwent watercolour pencil, an Inktense pencil, because there's some nice tiny spaces on those. Probably the other way around. She's going to be a little bit brighter than him, possibly. Not sure about that one. So that's my flip through of my post-it notes of what I'm going to do in my new Mythomorphia